Are you tired of staying at home and the thirst for adventure is pulling you to unexplored lands? But you haven't decided yet where you want to go: to the north, to the land of polar bears, or to the tropics with their rainforests? After evaluating your wardrobe and the diet of polar bears, you've chosen the shores of the warm Indian Ocean. Then it's time to board the plane. We're heading to an amazing exotic country that has been drawing the interest of tourists recently. We're flying to India. India is a country of contrasts, a rapidly developing economy, high-tech industries, and bustling megacities coexist with the culture of ancient civilizations and numerous rituals. Wealth and luxury border poverty. Towering skyscrapers sit side by side with huts. India attracts foreigners not only with its exoticism, but also with opportunities for work, business, and life. However, let's take a closer look. Is it dangerous to visit India? How difficult is it to find a job? And why is there such a different attitude toward people with white skin compared to the locals? Which parts of the country are better to avoid for your own safety? Indians are considered one of the world's oldest civilizations. Over 6,000 years ago, there was a state here distinguished by its developed urban culture, writing system, and trade links with Mesopotamia. The religion that originated in those times still exists today. People worship different gods, and we'll see how this affects their behavior later on. Today, India is the second most populous country in the world, only behind China, and unfortunately, almost a third of its population lives below the poverty line. As a result, crime rates are fairly high. India leads the world in terms of frauds and murders per year. However, for now, nothing threatens us as we are strictly following all safety rules. We just need to remember that foreigners quickly become the target of attention from scammers and thieves. But we will leave our money and passport in the hotel safe, take only a few small bills for taxis and shopping, and go for a walk. Let's first visit a small area, Hauz Khas village. Once a military fortress protecting the city, now it's a district full of clubs, bars, and small cafes. Graffiti covers the walls of houses, and modern music fills the air. There are many souvenir shops with affordable prices. Unlike other districts of Delhi, this is a budget-friendly place for people with average incomes, like young people and students. Fights are common here, especially at night. Young people who have drunk too much settle their differences. It's worth mentioning that some states in India have a complete alcohol ban. In other regions, there may be restrictions, such as age limits, 21 to 25 years, or the sale of alcohol only in specialized stores. But is it dangerous to walk around the city at night, let's say, with a friend? The answer to this question is likely. If you can't sleep or simply don't want to stay in your room, you can take a walk. Just choose well-lit central streets with bright signs and crowds of people. But remember, in India, there are almost no pedestrian walkways, and often there are hanging wires or pieces of metal above you. Still, it's better not to stray too far from the hotel. Don't turn into narrow streets that your navigator sometimes takes you down. People often sleep on the ground there. I don't think either you or they would be happy if you accidentally step on someone. Don't rush to rent a car, scooter, or bike. There are areas where it's not safe for tourists to drive. Even in a closed car, you could get a blow to the window. And what to say about a bike or scooter, where it's easy to knock off the driver and passenger, especially if someone blocks the road. You could get robbed, or worse, the vehicle could be stolen. One such incident shocked the entire country. In 2012, a naked young man and woman were found by the side of a road leading to Delhi. Their bodies were in terrible condition from beatings, and the woman had also been assaulted. Before dying, she managed to give a testimony to the police. The investigation revealed that the criminals were heavily intoxicated with illegal substances. How does India view drug use? Drug laws here are very strict. the Indian police pay particular attention to tourists in Goa and other resort areas. This is because of a strange stereotype. If you're a tourist, you must be involved with illegal substances. Due to this perception, police officers often refuse to help foreigners, especially in Goa. Where did this negative attitude toward foreigners come from? What exactly is Goa, and why do people flock here? Is it a paradise for tourists or a trap? Let's figure it out. Let's start by saying that Goa is the resort jewel of India, where local exotica blends freely with the traditions of Western Europe. Here, tropical nature, the spirit of ancient civilizations, and, most importantly, luxurious white sandy beaches exist. When India stopped being a British colony, it began to actively develop tourism. People from various European countries, including Russia, flocked here. Goa wasn't ready for such a number of tourists, so prices stayed local. Cheap hotels and tasty, affordable food quickly boosted Goa's rating among those looking for a good vacation. So what? Prices for accommodation, food, and entertainment are quite reasonable, and there are many opportunities for remote work and freelancing. But the biggest draw of Goa is its nightlife and famous beach festivals. At first, it was quite difficult to get into them. The locations were kept secret to avoid detection by the police. People who wanted to attend the parties asked each other for directions. Now, it's much easier thanks to the internet and social media. People come here to try something new, to enjoy new sensations, and, so to speak, indulge in the pleasure of fresh experiences while staying unrecognizable and not tarnishing their reputation back home. What's needed for that? Alcohol and something that's not allowed at home, especially at parties. This is where various prohibited substances and people who trade them come into the picture. One thing to keep in mind: the quality of the product offered to tourists is not always good and often leaves much to be desired. Nowadays, thanks to the internet, people, especially foreign tourists, create special chat groups through which communication happens. In these chats, you may be offered help with renting a car or bike, exchanging money, or finding an apartment. You can also find offers for illegal substances. These are usually private chats, and participants are added by the admin based on recommendations. Some groups have a large number of people, sometimes up to 8 to 10,000. Interestingly, a recent chat with nearly 80,000 members was closed. So, at any time of the day or night, you can find anything you wish for in these chats. But let's remind you once again, even a small amount of illegal substances can result in imprisonment for up to 10 years. But let's be honest, despite illegal substances being illegal in India, many Indians use them too. For example, hashish remained legal in Goa until the mid-1970s. By the way, it was believed that even the god Shiva smoked marijuana. There are Indian belief systems where, in order to get closer to the gods, a person must enter a trance. For this purpose, different smoking mixtures and rhythmic drumming are used. Interestingly, the first hippies to come to Goa used the sound of the drums, transferring it to electronic music. This led to the creation of a new musical genre, Goa trance. These same hippies used cannabis to freely dance all night. People didn't become aggressive or angry, unlike those who used hard, illegal substances. They simply forgot about their problems for a while. But in the early 2000s, ecstasy replaced the light smoking mixtures, becoming the leading drug in Goa. Police raids became more frequent, and this soon led to results. Now, if a tourist is caught with a chillum pipe, and less than 100 grams of smoking mixture, they might be released if they can prove that it is part of a religious ritual. In India, smoking mixtures can be offered to you on the street or at markets. But remember, no matter how easy and harmless it may seem, using them still harms your body and leads to diseases in various organs. Moreover, it turns out that you're paying money for your own sickness. It's really foolish. So don't indulge and don't put your life at risk. Now let's step back a little and talk about another feature of India. Do you believe in karma? That for every action, there is a response? If your thoughts are pure and your deeds are good, then very soon, fate will reward you. Otherwise, don't expect any gifts from fate. It's unclear how this works, but it's very evident here. Most tourists note that India is a country of karma and incredible energy, where miracles truly exist. Perhaps this is because the belief in reincarnation, the wheel of samsara, and the working off of past debts, along with the supernatural, have deep roots here. Anything is possible. Reality here seems to tune itself to your inner wave, picking up on your thoughts, feelings, and desires. Many people come here to immerse themselves in the mysticism of this country, sometimes ignoring basic safety rules. Apart from illegal substances, gambling was also forbidden here. The first law on public gambling, which prohibited the operation and visiting of gaming houses, was passed in 1867. But there was a loophole. Gambling with money was prohibited on Indian soil, but nothing was said about the sea or the ocean. At first, casinos only appeared on water in Goa. They were floating vessels anchored near the shore. Later, in states like Goa, Sikkim, and Daman, casinos were legalized and now function legally, but in land-based casinos, only electronic games are allowed, while those on ships or affiliated with shore hotels can offer card games. So, you have a lot of money, you're in Goa, and you don't know what to do to treat yourself. Welcome to the casino. The road to the beautiful clubs might confuse you a little. It will seem like we're driving through abandoned alleyways from the last century with almost no signs. But as soon as we turn the next corner, a brightly lit beach will appear, and you'll realize that your worries were in vain. Before you, you'll see the amazing works of Italian sculptor Jungle. One of his most famous pieces is the carved stone face of Shiva on Vagator Beach in northern Goa. But we came here to have fun and part with our money, so let's go. The casino is open 24 hours a day. At first, of course, you'll have to go through security, no less thorough than customs. You'll have to leave some things behind, but that's okay. The most important thing you need here is pockets full of money. You can stay on land, but many people prefer the floating casinos. So, we'll wait for a small boat at the pier, which will take us, along with other gaming enthusiasts, to a beautiful cruise ship, into the world of games, excitement, and uncontrollable emotions. And now we're on the ship. The liners are different, but the setup is similar. 2 to 3 floors with gaming rooms. Some casinos have slot machines, tables for beginners, and even children's areas where animators will take care of the kids while you play. Several tables are usually connected by one electronic roulette, which is monitored on screens. The croupiers at the tables may attract attention with their Asian appearance, but don't be surprised if you learn they are also Indian citizens. They are from the northeastern region, which is close to East Asia. Unlike the hot-tempered and impulsive Indians, they are more attentive to detail and have a patient manner when interacting with guests, while possessing excellent mathematical skills. In Goa, croupiers undergo special training to meet high service standards. In India, casinos are visited by everyone who has even a little bit of spare cash. There are even a few holidays during the year when it's almost a must to go and try your luck at the games. This might be connected to religion, specifically the worship of Lakshmi, the beautiful Indian goddess of wealth, prosperity, luck, and happiness. Indians are naturally avid gamblers. They can even gamble at home with money. The thing is, gambling has been a part of Indian culture for centuries. It is believed that its origins are tied to the development of trade and social connections. Historical sources mention dice games, card games, and even chess. Along with legal casinos, there are also illegal ones in India. These are private villas where a select group of people gather, enjoying alcohol, illegal substances, and other expensive pleasures. Penalties for participating in illegal gambling vary depending on the state and specific legislation. They can include fines and imprisonment. However, unfortunately, young and carefree people are not deterred by this. There have been cases where foreigners were arrested in such illegal gambling houses, and they were subject to the so-called Shiva visa. This means they are prohibited from leaving India or a specific state due to legal proceedings, which can sometimes drag on for years. For some, this is convenient, no need to apply for a new visa. In general, the situation with gambling in India is a real maze with many dead ends and dark paths. It's important to thoroughly understand the rules of each state before getting involved in such an adventure. And remember, gambling is always a risk, even in the most legal casinos. In addition to casinos, Indians love to hang out in restaurants. And not just on weekends, but any day of the week, you can find a lively crowd, even in nightclubs that stay open until the morning. Mostly, it's the so-called golden youth who are partying, young people who lavishly spend their parents' money. While millions of Indians are struggling to escape the grip of poverty, the children of the wealthy are enjoying themselves in high-end bars and cafes with great service and high prices. A special ritual involves pouring expensive champagne onto the floor. Young people order the most expensive wine and, in front of everyone, dramatically spill it. Sometimes they even ask for a large metal basin to avoid having to clean up the wine. Then they take the basin out and always set off fireworks. Why do they do this? Just like the children of businessmen who speed around city streets in fancy cars, ignoring traffic laws. It's out of idleness and foolishness, to assert their status and show off. Look, here I am, free and rich. I do what I want. For this ritual, they hire champagne girls, typically Slavic women with fair skin and light hair. Why do Indians care so much about hair and skin color? I'll explain that in a bit. While the girls entertain guests with Eastern dances, serve drinks, and help pour champagne, sometimes several partying groups perform this ritual during the night, showing off to each other, not wanting to fall behind. What sets an Indian party apart from those in other countries? Usually, people at a restaurant or bar sit in tight groups at their tables, but as soon as you enter a place where Indian people are hanging out, you immediately become part of the celebration. Everyone starts to meet each other, move from table to table, chatting as if they've known each other for a long time. Often, to show their superiority over others, young people pour champagne on expensive watches or iPhones. These are just stunts designed to impress others and gain respect. Look at how cool I am. I must say, India has surpassed all other countries in this regard. Take a look at the weddings of India's billionaires. No ceremony can take place without expensive jewelry. Beautiful saris, earrings with huge, costly gemstones that pull at the earlobes, heavy gold and silver chains and bracelets adorning the necks and arms of brides. The grooms don't lag behind. Rich rings sparkle on their fingers, and their jackets are adorned with traditional men's brooches, sometimes diamond masterpieces crafted by famous jewelers. This happens while more than half of the country lives in abject poverty and hunger, forced to earn a living by selling their bodies. Yes, I'm talking about prostitution. How does India handle the world's oldest profession? In modern India, the situation regarding the regulation of prostitution remains ambiguous. On one hand, engaging in sex work is not a criminal act, but on the other hand, the operation of brothels, pimping, and human trafficking are illegal. However, in most major cities, including the capital, there are areas where women of the night work openly. These girls offering intimate services can be seen on the streets, but they are mostly locals. Prostitution existed in India before the arrival of British colonizers, and didn't disappear even after the country gained independence. In ancient times, when the region was ruled by kings, the courtesans had their own hierarchy, with the most prestigious being the tawaifs. These were beautiful women, skilled in dancing and playing musical instruments. They were cultured, intelligent, and could charm others with fascinating stories, much like the geishas of Japan. Other dancers who did not achieve elite status were considered courtesans. Today, the tawaif is part of history, but there are still many women selling their bodies in India. The Indian sex industry is considered the largest in the world, with a turnover measured in billions of dollars. In general, in an Indian family, the birth of a girl is not welcomed. People here often say it's better to give birth to a stone than a daughter. A son will grow up and bring money to the family, while a daughter has to be married off. Because women often aborted pregnancies as soon as they found out the child's gender, ultrasound exams are now banned here. In poor families with several daughters, it is not uncommon for 2 or 3 girls aged 14 to 15 to be illegally sold to pimps. Otherwise, the family just can't survive. Once in this profession, girls don't plan to leave. They're paid good money here, and they can't earn as much elsewhere. They haven't been trained in anything else, so they don't know how to do anything else. Although providing intimate services is not forbidden, it must be done discreetly. Brothels cannot be opened, and advertisements with phone numbers cannot be posted. Doing so could land someone in prison. However, in any hotel, you will be offered a pleasant rest and may even be given a special album with photos of girls. They will assure you that these are not professional prostitutes, but girls who need money. But don't be deceived. Despite active government programs for prevention, the rates of HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases among sex workers remain high. Because regular medical checkups are absent, many infected people don't receive necessary treatment. By the way, there are small villages in India where everything is the opposite. For example, traditionally, the bride's dowry is collected by her parents, but in these villages, the groom and his family pay for the dowry, and the birth of a daughter is a celebration. Men here mostly don't work. The work is very hard and low-paying, and families are supported by women. So, what are these villages like? These are small villages, mostly in the central and northern parts of India, known as prostitute villages. Here, descendants of royal courtesans live in abject poverty. There are no hospitals, schools are practically non-existent, and unemployment is through the roof. Prostitution is the main source of income and is passed down from generation to generation. If the village is near a major highway, it is much wealthier than those where the roads have not yet been built. Girls start working as early as 10 or 11 to earn as much as possible for their families, because the older the woman gets, the less she earns. Older girls teach younger ones how to increase their value and attract clients. Sometimes parents can allow their daughters to go to school, but if the family's financial situation worsens, the girl will return to working on the highway. As the girls grow older, they get married and have children. Life in these villages has barely changed for many years, even though the residents try to break free from this trap. So what is the cause of such a horrific social phenomenon? It's because for centuries, Indian society has been strictly divided into a system of castes based on people's occupations. Among them, there are lower castes. Over 70 years ago, this system was officially abolished. But in remote, poor areas, nothing has changed. People cannot escape the constraints of their castes, or they will be severely punished by society. And how does it work for girls from other countries? They are mostly invited to participate in escort services. Escorting is not prostitution. It's simply providing beautiful companionship. But often, the two terms can be used interchangeably. Very expensive girls from Russia and Ukraine are in high demand. After them, girls from Western Europe follow, then Tajiks and Uzbeks. The latter try to dye their hair blonde and pass themselves off as Russians. The cheapest are African girls. Here, there is a particular attitude toward darker skin, and I promise to discuss that later. How can a girl avoid falling from escorting to being available for prostitution? How dangerous is it to come to India to work as a model or a dancer? Girls are attracted to India with enticing offers from various agencies. They are promised jobs in education, marketing, and even alternative medicine, but most often, girls are hired as dancers or models. The conditions of the contract, what kind of services the girls will provide, are agreed upon beforehand. There are many reputable agencies that value their reputation and even state in their ads that they don't offer intimate services. They may advertise as hiring animators, models, or marketers. However, cases of deception, underpayment, and theft of money and phones are common. One such case happened recently with a Russian girl. Let's call her Maria. She was a choreographer and decided to work as a dancer in an Indian club. The first agency she contacted online immediately raised suspicion. The terms of the contract were far from what had been agreed upon online. So, she started looking for another job. She quickly found a new place. At first, everything was going well, according to the terms of the contract. But soon, Maria noticed they were asking her not only to dance, but also to become a champagne girl and serve drinks to guests. She became upset, which immediately caused dissatisfaction with the managers. One of them began giving her strange attention, calling her late at night for non-work-related matters. However, Maria wasn't involved in prostitution. When she received her payment slip, the amount was 3.5 times less than what had been agreed upon in the contract. Maria went to the office and demanded the rest, saying she wouldn't work for such a small amount. They didn't listen to her and simply kicked her out. Maria returned to the room she had rented and felt an uneasy sense of fear. She immediately contacted her mother, packed her things, and left the hotel to head to the airport. An hour later, she was flying back to Russia. When the managers noticed the Russian dancer was missing, they became worried. At first, they claimed she was a thief who stole costumes and keys to the apartment. Then they started begging her to return, promising to fulfill all the contract terms. But Maria was resolute and didn't return. The other dancers didn't know this yet. They were assured that Maria was still in India and would soon be back to work. But a day later, one of the Russian girl's colleagues was taken by the police on charges of prostitution. It turned out that the employer made that claim as part of their strategy not to pay the girls their salary. In another case, the girl was found by rescuers whom she had managed to call herself. According to the terms of the contract, they promised decent accommodation, well-paid work with meals included, but in reality, she was placed in a damp semi-basement with horrible conditions. Her money was taken, her phone was broken, and only thanks to the help of her diaspora, the girl was able to return home. How did this happen? Most likely, the girls ended up with a bad manager. Yes, there is that risk. They won't take your passport or be physically aggressive, but the working and living conditions might not match what was initially described in the agreement. Horrible housing, terrible working conditions. For example, several jobs a day and unpaid wages, which sometimes turn out to be lower than what was originally agreed upon. Before getting in touch with companies offering work, it's essential to check reviews from people who have already worked there, or to go strictly on recommendation. Now, about the promised explanation of why people with white skin are treated differently in India. It's time to explain. Remember, India was once a colony, meaning white people turned the local population into cheap labor, almost slaves. After the revolution and the departure of the colonizers, Indians had to raise their status, and they came up with the idea of hiring Europeans, just as they had been hired in the past. Here, we must remember a particular trait of Indians. They love to brag to each other. For example, Look, I can afford to hire a European chef. The status of a modeling agency immediately rises if it has many girls from Europe, and cafes or bars become more prestigious if people with lighter skin frequent them. It's again about self-affirmation. In my establishment, we even have Europeans. To attract such clients, the owners resort to clever marketing tricks, offering discounts on food or drinks, providing prime seating. Sometimes they even hire light-skinned girls who pretend to be regular customers of the establishment. But despite everything, people with Slavic looks are considered to belong to the highest castes. For example, a white person is not allowed to take out the trash. That must be done by hired workers. So, what advice can we give to people who want to come here? India is a land of opportunities, but also a land of trials. This is a place where your fears or beautiful dreams can instantly materialize. Jobs for foreigners are available only in certain fields, and they are very limited. Indians believe in reincarnation and karma. They are not afraid of death, and perhaps that's why they are always cheerful and sociable. For a tourist who is visiting India for the first time, everything may seem very bright, loud, anxious, and dangerous. But then, the realization comes that in order to truly embrace the spirit of this amazing place and feel the magic of this country, you just need to follow your inner voice and believe in miracles. Before traveling, it's important to study local laws, culture, and safety practices. Extra caution is recommended in Goa and the big cities to avoid trouble. If you prepare in advance and follow basic rules, India can become a wonderful place for living, working, and adventure.